Hello, everybody. I am Marlisha, also known as Marlisha Muses, and this is my booktube channel, Marlisha's Meanderings. And I have a co-host, that's Tahlia from Tahlia and I.
Hi.
And we are going to do, I think this is an original
Well,
tag.
we created it, so
As far as I know, we created it. My husband gave us suggestions, Tahlia and I brainstormed.
there might be something similar around, but
As far as we know, it's original.
Yeah.
And it's called the Book First Date Book Tag. Okay?
And the idea being that is everything about your first experiences with a book.
Yes. So, the first prompt is, what books do you regret buying? Okay. What is there anything that you brought home and you found out, oh wow, this is not what I thought it was?
Mm-hmm.
Do you find anything?
Well, I thought of one for you.
For me?
Yes. Do you remember when it was either Three Musketeers or one of the books I got you during that time period, or helped you get during a time period where the print was so small?
Oh,
actually, Elizabeth's Garden was another one like that for you.
Elizabeth's German Garden, which I ended up getting on Kindle because I couldn't read it, and I still didn't care for the book. I regretted getting the book, but I didn't regret doing the read along, if that makes any sense, because I enjoyed it with Faith and I think it was with Lady Linda.
I thought you had several people.
We did, but those are the only two I can remember off the top of my head. But yeah, that, and then the Three Musketeers was not as I remembered it.
Well, also the text was really small.
The text was really small. I have another book that I have. It's about a saint who is a patron saint of autism, and the print is so tiny that even with a magnifying glass to the nth degree, I don't think I could read it. So usually when I regret books, that it's because of the print. Occasionally it's because of the story, but I try to kind of look at the book ahead of time. It's a little harder online because sometimes you have situations pop up or whatever. And I have had a couple of those that I can't remember the names of, where there were situations or there was language. And was really disappointing is you start getting into the characters and into the story, and then all of a sudden you can't read it.
And that's what happened for me. And even if I could remember the name of the book, I would probably not share it, simply because I was really that irritated by it. I had read a nice long section, as like I did my due diligence. I read the free amount that Amazon provided for free, which is actually a really good amount as a fantasy book. And then it ended up having sex scene, and that wasn't what I wanted. I actually, thankfully, Amazon gave me a refund on the Kindle, so I didn't have to keep it. But that was a regret buy that I turned around and returned. So I think usually it's something like that for me. Not usually terribly often because of the book itself. Or like a nonfiction or something. Every once in a while there'll be one like, yeah, I'm not reading this one again. But it's not usually that I outright regret buying the book.
Right. Yeah, I think that we are in agreement there. We don't usually regret, because we do try to do our due diligence and get things that are up our area of interest.
Because even if it's a stylistic difference, or even if it didn't end up being quite what I expected, usually I get something out of the experience, even if I'm never going to read the book again and end up unhauling it. So.
Okay, so the next prompt, number 2, is, do you DNF books? Now, this is in segments, so we'll do the first question first, and then we'll do all the sections, and then we'll go to 3. So, do you DNF books? I don't usually, but I will if I feel the need. How about you?
I have, but a lot of times what I'll do is I'll like DNF them. They'll be temporarily in timeout, and temporarily that might last who knows how long. But there are a few books that I have permanently DNF'd. The one that I mentioned that I returned.
This probably should have gone with it. Why or why not? Something that will cause me to DNF a book is language, situations. I am strictly a PG-13 reader, and I'm talking PG-13 from like the 70s, 80s PG-13, not now where you have all kinds of stuff that maybe would have been R previously. I like things to be family friendly and not full of stuff that either shocks me or embarrasses me or something like that.
I just remembered another book that it ties into DNF and regret buying. There was a book called, I think it was called Dr. Icepick. And I was really looking forward to because it's talking about, it might not have been Dr. Icepick, it might have been something along, it was on that topic. It was about the doctor who did the ice pick lobotomies.
Oh, right.
And I was really interested in the topic, but the author had so much author intrusion.
Yes.
And to the point where it's like he was adding his opinion in a way that felt like he had an agenda, and it was really annoying me. So and it might not have been Dr. Icepick, it might have been another book on the same topic. I really can't remember what the book was, and I had read it too late to get a refund. I regretted buying that book, but it's sad because it was a topic I was interested in.
And I remember one now too. It was an Alison Weir book.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought the book because Taya raved about her as a historian.
Yeah.
And this was one of her historical fictions. And the direction it took was not where I was prepared to go. I was very disappointed in it, and so I did not finish it. I decided that, I think I unhauled it because I was that disappointed. I didn't think, I know it was a historical novel, but it just, no, it was a little racy for me. So
yeah, I haven't read any for historical fiction. I actually, as a general rule, am picky about my historical fiction. I have DNF'd books if I feel like the tone is wrong, like if they didn't get the era right, and it just feels off, or if they've written someone else's character and the character doesn't sound like the character.
Not the right voice.
Yeah, it doesn't have the right voice. That will make me DNF a book. Also, for a historical book, what'll make me DNF a book, besides someone inserting their opinions, if you begin chapters, even if it's at the beginning each chapter, or if it's throughout, and you make it feel like a historical fiction, cannot stand that. Do not give me a historical fiction type section. If I wanted to read historical fiction, I would have read a historical fiction. I'm here for just the facts, ma'am.
The soapbox is right under her feet, so.
Oh, I hate that so much. I actually unhauled a couple books like that, and I'm not sure if I'll be able to keep one of the books I recently picked up that I was looking forward to, because I open it up, first chapter.
Give it a chance.
Oh, I can't stand it.
Just wait and see what it says.
If it does it too frequently, it's gone. Or I'll give it to you because you don't care.
Well, it depends on what the history is.
Ungrateful Daughters. It's about one of the English kings who is betrayed by his daughters, it looks like.
Maybe.
And really interesting topic, but I open it, it looks like it's doing that. I'm like, I can't stand it when authors do this. It's so very annoying.
Yeah.
That will make me want to DNF a book so fast.
And the last part of this question, at what point do you DNF? If you do, how much time do you generally invest before DNFing? I think that depends on the book and how invested I am in the character. Sometimes I get really invested because I'm very character driven. So if I am really invested in the character, I will forgive almost anything as long as possible. But if it's got stuff in it, scenes in it, I can't go to... God forbid you have God's name in vain. I see it once or twice, it's gone. I don't care how good the book is, it's gone. And so, yeah, that will, yeah.
Now, light DNF is different because a lot of times for me, that's like, okay, maybe I just wasn't in the mood for this. Now I'll come back to it later.
Light
but
DNF? What?
Light DNF or putting it in timeout. It's like, versus like hard DNF, I'm never coming back to this. I hated this.
I didn't realize we were categorizing.
I kind of do a little bit because there are definitely points where I have just not continued the book because I just didn't feel like it, couldn't focus on it.
See, I don't consider those DNF. I consider those paused, like they do on Storygraph.
Right.
So I don't consider those DNF'd until I say I'm not reading this anymore.
Well, I've had a couple books where it's like, like the one, I think it was in The Pride of the Moment, where where the language was so, basically felt like you had to keep going to a dictionary.
Right.
And it was really, it almost sounded pretentious. But I'm not quite really ready to concede and let the author win by not finishing the book, because then he's, made it, it's like almost like puffing him up more, even though he's not even like
doesn't know you're reading it.
I don't care. It's like, you pretentious little so and so. I'll finish your darn book when I'm good and ready. I'm not even sure if I agree with all this.
That'll learn him.
That'll learn him. It's just I can't. That feels like it would be conceding to the author's pretentious language.
I don't mind. Excuse me. I don't mind things with language I have to look up if it's entertainingly done.
Yeah.
If it goes with the flow.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes it interrupts the flow, and then I won't read it anymore because I'm just going constantly to the dictionary. Other times, like, okay, this is a cool word.
Oh yeah, I don't mind looking up things when I'm reading. I had to do that multiple times when reading. Was it From France to England, or to From England to France? Something like that. It had to do with the people who were being exiled to France from England.
We had to do a little bit with Mansfield Park.
And so there have been a couple of books where, I've had to look things up. I don't mind that. I mind it if it feels like the author is trying to be pretentious.
He's using $5 words instead of 25-cent words.
And it can be a lot easier seeming pretentious when when you have to look up multiple words during the course of a sentence. And I have a pretty good vocabulary, but when you have to look up multiple words during the course of one sentence or one paragraph, and it's a literary a literary criticism book. So it's like you're sitting there critically looking at literature, and then you add that on top of it, you just end up seeming like a pretentious.
Right, and I'm aware that certain books, like we're reading The Development of Christian Doctrine.
Mm-hmm. I don't have a problem with that.
Newman, okay? We had to put it aside. It's not DNF.
It's like DNF.
We just have too much going on right now to finish it this time.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to do a lot of looking up, but it's because of the topic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not familiar with the topic. I don't mind looking up things when I have.
I don't feel like I'm trying to prove myself to St. John, Cardinal John
Henry Newman.
Yeah,
it's a learning curve for that. It's not like he's saying, okay, let me see how much I can make them scurry.
Sometimes it feels like an author is trying to impress his peers. And I don't get that feeling with Newman. It almost feels like Newman's just talking at a level that is his peers. He wasn't necessarily writing it as much for.
Well, he was writing an essay for people,
So it gave a different feel. I don't know. But I will give them. That's something. Usually I don't strong DNF, something like that, simply because then it feels like I'm letting the author win.
Right. Okay, so that takes care of that first prompt, finally.
That was second prompt.
Oh, the second prompt, I'm sorry. Is there a book, this is number 3, is there a book you did not want to come to an end, couldn't put down? Oh, wow, yeah. Hunger Games is one. And Hunger Games, who's that, Suzanne Collins?
That's Suzanne Collins.
And Quadrille series by Timothy Zahn. Both of those, I would sit there and read and get to bed way too late because I wanted to finish it. And then when I finished it, I won't go through that yet. I just wanted to read that all. And I can't start it again.
Because I know with Hunger Games, I've only read the first one, but it's because I read the first one all in one sitting. And this is when I was still working night shift. I read it all through the night shift, and then I couldn't put it down, so I read it through when I was supposed to be asleep as well, until I finished it. I don't think I worked the next day, thankfully. Or if I did, I just went to work a little sleep deprived. But I couldn't put it down. So I knew at that point, okay, I can't read the rest of them. But I also refused to see any but the first movie. Because I refused to have, at that point, I was trying not to ruin the books for myself. Well, since then, because I know it's intense books and I can't handle a lot of intensity, even a lot of intense emotions sometimes in books, just because I go into fight or flight very easily.
Right.
But, so I've ruined the other books for myself. Like, I've done a lot of spoilers, so now it won't catch me by surprise, and I can enjoy the rest of the series. Because I want to actually read them for myself now that I'm not working.
And those are the only 2 series that I can think of off the top of my head. I know there are others where I just couldn't put it down. Some of the Agatha Christie's, I will sit there and read it till I finish. And thankfully, Agatha Christie is short.
Quadrille is another one for me, like you said, where I finished it and I was like, oh, I missed this. I'm sorry this is done.
Well, to a case in point for Quadrille, first of all, I didn't want to read Quadrille because it was after Hunger Games, and so it wasn't Hunger Games. And then
it's hard when you are starting to judge subsequent books.
Well, wasn't that he wasn't Peeta, and she wasn't Katniss, and this wasn't the Hunger Games. This was some ship out somewhere. But then I got so invested in those characters that when I finished that, Timothy's On, I went right to his uh, Pawn, I think it's Pawn Knight Queen.
Yeah.
And this series, and I didn't want to read it because it wasn't the quadrille series. It took a little while to get into it, and that's really almost anything by Timothy's On is going to get you just, or get me anyway.
Well, he's very character oriented.
Yeah,
so.
and I love character stuff. His Thrawn series was amazing, and I do like his stuff. The only one I hadn't been able to get into wasn't the Angel Mass, right?
Well, I think it's when you started with it, because your main character that you follow at the beginning doesn't start off as someone that you would think necessarily would be a good lead character. But you've already experienced that with Pawn Knight Queen.
She was very difficult to get.
So I think you're ready to handle Chandris now.
Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Do you have anything else to say for that?
Yeah, I do. So that was also I actually have a nonfiction.
Oh, okay.
For that, and that was I believe that I had two that were like that. One for sure was a butchering age. Oh, I don't have. I do have my phone. It was about Joseph Leister. And it was about just it was so fascinating. I thoroughly enjoyed that. It was I actually followed the author on Instagram. Butchering Art, that's what it was. I didn't find it on here, but it was a Butchering Art. I want to read her book, The Face Makers, because it's at all as good as a Butchering Art was. That one I didn't really want to finish.
Is this plastic surgery?
No, he did surgery, although, I mean, occasionally plastic surgery. It was just in general, different kinds of surgeries that at that point, you didn't have as much, like the antiseptics and stuff. He was big. I mean, that Listerine is named after him.
Yeah, I figured it was.
So, but he was also just a nice person, which sometimes it seems rare in history to find someone that you actually, like, kind of like.
Depends on who's writing the history.
True. But that one I didn't really want to end. And I even remember saying that at the time, that, it's like, I enjoyed reading this book, but man, I could have kept reading this book. And then the other one I think was kind of like that was possibly Rush, about Dr. Benjamin Rush. So I have had a couple books that were like that. Those are the two that come off the top of my head, though, that are nonfiction.
Okay, so let's see here. Number 4. Have you experienced withdrawal after finishing a specific book, not wanting to move other to characters, wanted to reread the whole book or sections? Yes, I think we went through that already. Hunger Games was the first one in a long time. I would go back and read the last chapter over and over. Not even the last chapter, the last 3 pages or so, over and over and over again. I have a series by Patrick Carr, which I will read over and over again, because when I'm reading that, I don't want it to end. And his is funny because his first series took me a while to get into. It took a while to get started, but he is character oriented, and once he got started, the characters developed. I really enjoyed both his series. There are some by Terry Brooks that I like that.
Rose and Bloom is like that.
Rose and Bloom was like that.
The funny thing is, 8 Cousins less so, but Rose and Bloom,
yes,
I have read over and over and over, and I've been in withdrawal from them before too.
Especially the last chapter. Yeah, it's just.
Well, I can pick different sections out. So yeah, there are definitely books like that. And I'm sure if I sat here and thought about it more, I could think of others where I've kind of gone through withdrawal. And I think the first couple times I read Wolf Hunt.
Yes.
It was like that.
Yes, Wolf Hunt was like that.
So, yeah, I think that there were several, I can definitely say several books.
Okay. Let's see here. What keeps you invested in a book? For me, characters. Plot, yeah. Scenery, not at all. It's got to be the characters. You could put those characters in an equivalent to a blank room, and if they're well drawn and interesting, I will stay with them. I love character driven plots. just character focused stories.
And I will say the same, but also for same thing for nonfiction. The nonfictions that I've enjoyed the most have a strong element of biography to it, where I actually care about them and I get fired up about things that are happening to them.
I think you have to be careful with the character-driven histories, though, because I like that as well, but I don't like gossip.
Right,
I don't
agree.
I don't like the people or type of thing, or the I want just the facts, ma'am, of their life. I'd like your letter thing from, what was it, Abigail, and
Yes, that
would have been nice. I like that. That's character-driven fact, but I don't want gossip.
No, and I mean, like, then you have to wonder where it crosses over. Like,
well, I think a lot of times it crosses over when it's somebody else saying it, not the person who wrote it. I mean, those are the actual letters, so you know that.
I mean, a lot of stuff is extrapolated from either things that they wrote, a lot, or records.
I mean, I know that you're going to get a lot of secondhand stuff, and I think it depends on.
Well, especially the farther back you go in time.
I think it depends on what kind of spin they put on it, or if they're putting a spin of some kind. You can't help but come at it with some kind of bias.
Well, I mean, okay, let's give the example of The Great Bridge by Dave McCullough about the building of the Brooklyn Bridge. The point where it started really heating up for me is when it was focusing a lot on the different things with the actual building of the bridge that dealt with Washington Roebling. When he was always there for the men, and he was, he got sick because of all the time he spent at the caissons, and how different at certain points, because he was working at it from afar and basically still running things from his sick room, there were points where he was being given such a hard time. People were trying to throw him off the project, and when they tried to throw him off the project at 0 hour, when he was finally going to see the success, and other people swooped in and said, no, he deserves to still be here. That whole period of time, it's very personal driven, and it's because people make up history.
But that's, at least it's quasi-factual.
It is factual.
I don't know how to explain what I feel is gossip, but I know it when I read it. And like reading Peter Falk, that was first person. That was exactly what he was going to say. The Holy Father, that was first person with some help from the person who was writing it with him. The thing that you read about Houdini and Conan Doyle.
Oh, it technically wasn't about Conan Doyle. He just came in a lot. Yeah, that was Magician Against the Spirits.
Right. So things like that. When the
author...
would
you argue that the book written about Houdini that I have going is, like, do you consider biographies gossip?
It depends on how they're written. Are they sensationalized? Are they, basically pretty much the fact? I'm not saying they have to be boring like a textbook paper or anything. I'm just saying.
I mean, considering my high standards for history and what I can a lot of them, I think what I'm gonna like is not gonna be considered what you're describing as gossip, simply because sensationalization of it doesn't fit the facts.
Well, like you, if I have a history book, I want a history book. I may have a little more tolerance for some of the things that you think is unprofessional, but like you, I want it to be historical and I don't want it to be tainted with the person's opinions and stuff like that, unless that's what I bought it for, the person's opinion. So, yeah, okay. Okay. Let's see here. Okay. 6, right?
Yeah, I think that's the next one.
What prompts you to pick up a book? Cover, blurb on the back of the book, etc. That depends. Sometimes it could be a book cover that will say, oh, I want to look at that. Sometimes it'll be a title, or it can be a blurb on the back if I happen to pick it up. A cover, a lot of times, is what catches my eye.
Right, because that's your first step.
Yeah.
Especially if you shop online. That's going to be your first step. Because usually what will happen is I might be looking for a specific book, and it gets recommended to me. Now, it might be the mixture of cover and title.
Yes, oftentimes it is.
Yeah.
And then the blurb.
And then the blurb puts a nail in the coffin kind of thing.
And then people who talk about it, I will listen to what I can. I don't do as much with the reviews unless I'm kind of on the fence. I mean, I'll look at the reviews. If it's less than a 4, I won't pick it up. Usually, unless I hear somebody saying, "Oh, this is a fantastic book. Don't pay attention to the reviews." And I respect that person.
Yeah, you have to read what the reviews say, like how they're saying or whatever. A lot of times, I'll read the reviews. Martin's Pharmacy. Why would they be calling me? They'll leave a voicemail.
Yeah, that's probably for Davina.
I've had that happen a couple times where they'll call me. I'm like, I don't get meds to you anymore. I'm not sure why you're calling me. But anyway, so what was that? Why you pick up a book again? So I can't remember what I was saying.
We do the cover, we do the title, we do what people say, we do look at reviews.
Oh, that's what I was saying. Okay. I've noticed like a lot of the folklore, you might see it as low as like 3. And I sit there and like, well, it's folklore. I'm not really concerned about reviews for folklore.
Well, it's something that's been passed down for so long.
Exactly. A lot of that, it's like, that's going to be something that you just don't happen to like this folklore.
Right. And sometimes I'll look at the reviews, because like I said, I have a very quirky taste sometimes. Like, I remember when some movies come out, and they would say, oh, this is horrible, blah, blah, blah. And I'll go to the movies and I'm like, there's nothing wrong with this movie. In fact, it's really good, but it's not fitting the narrative, or it's not this, or it's not that. And so I tend not to pay a whole lot of attention if they're just saying they don't like it.
I saw something recently that said that Last Action Hero didn't do well in the movies when it hit initially.
Oh, really? That's weird. Oh, I like that. It's offbeat, you know. It's, I don't know. I like sleeper classics and things like that. So, and the same thing for books. Sometimes I'll pick up a book just because I like the cover or whatever, and I'll say, oh, this looks interesting, or I'll flip through it and I'll read part of it, and I'm like, oh, this looks interesting, and all of a sudden, wow, I've got a new favorite.
Yeah. Now I will read the reviews a little bit more if it's a history book, and they have, because I am so specific about what I consider in a history book. So if I see a lot about the author inserts their opinions, or this wasn't historically accurate, I've actually taken recommendations from the comment section where someone was like, this was covered in more detail or better here.
Right.
And then I'll be like, I think I'm going to check out that book instead.
Yeah, no, I've done that even for fiction books sometimes. You know, if you want, this is a good story, but if you want something similar that's better, take a look at this. If you like this author, you like this one better, or something. So I do that, but I don't know, I guess it's kind of a hodgepodge. That the answer to that question depends.
History, it's very consistent for me, where I will read through, because history, I feel like there's a lot less leeway of taste. Well, for me, there's a lot less leeway of taste, because I'm so hyper specific about what I consider to be well done professional history versus, like, why didn't you just write historical fiction?
That's the way I am with my religion books, my faith books. I look at the authors, I look at their credentials. If it's not up to par, I won't pick it up, because
now the funny thing is, the reviews, I'll take a look at what they say, because sometimes it's someone who isn't really even like, why did you read this book if you didn't even like?
No, I get that.
That topic.
I get that. I also look at the press, especially for religious books. Sophia Press, Ali Maria Press, Ignatius Press, all that kind of stuff. Ascension Press, that kind of stuff. EWTN. That's where I tend to go. And if it's something I don't know, tan books, things like that, if I don't know them, I'll check them out, or I'll go looking at other people and see what they think of it, people that I trust. And if I can't find anything, then we'll pick it up. Let's see here.
Okay, so do you keep finished books to reread, or do you unhaul them?
That depends. If I really like it, I'll keep it.
Yeah, for a long time, I've only kept books. Now, I have had some ones I've recently read where I have books I've recently read that don't always stay upstairs that I can go through later and go like, okay, is this something I might revisit later? If not, I will probably unhaul them in some form or another. But I need to have them sit, and then I can think about whether or not I'm going to reread it. Like, for example, one that is going to stay is I read a while back a book on Hans Holbein. Haven't reread it in a while, but it's made its way back upstairs because I want to reread it at some point. Same thing with the Anna Cleeves book that I have. It'll probably make its way back upstairs at some point. Those are books that will not be unhauled.
Now, I have a book that I just read recently that will be unhauled. I just finished the book on the Holy Father, the past Holy Father, Francis. And as most of you who maybe have caught the video before, the one on my book review, I read that because my spiritual director suggested I read it. I was not going to buy it myself. So I read it, I finished it, and now I'm sending it out because it's not something I want to keep.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to give it to my mother, who will enjoy it and keep it maybe, or she might pass it along herself to someone else. It'll go, it'll make the rounds. It won't be destroyed. I don't hate it.
Mm-hmm.
I just
well, a
will
good
keep
example is the Peter Falk book.
Yes, the Peter Falk book is another one.
We
love
finished
him.
it, and then we both unhauled it.
Mm-hmm.
And both of us gave it to someone else who was going to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I usually, when I unhaul, I generally will give it to somebody I know who will enjoy it, or I'll give it to Goodwill or thrift books so I can get credits. Only occasionally will I throw out a book because it's just so offensive.
On the rare occasion, I will try to unhaul a book that I've never read.
Mm-hmm.
And one book is Harry's memoir.
Oh, right. Mm-hmm.
I can't do it. I cannot do it. I can't stand him.
All right, be nice. You don't know if you like him or not.
I know if I like him or not.
No, you don't know the man. You don't.
I have heard sections of his own words in his biography. He's a little whiny baby.
Okay, be nice.
That's based off of his own writing.
Be nice.
That he chose to share.
Be nice.
That does fall in your criteria.
Be nice. And also,
I don't like his actions.
Do you know that gossip also includes saying things that don't need to be said?
Well, he did say the things.
Okay, well, be nice. I hate gossip. In case you haven't noticed, I really do. I hate gossip. I hate all that kind of stuff because it's just hurtful. That and judgmentalism. But anyway.
But yes, no, I just can't bring myself to read the book.
You shouldn't have to.
So that as soon as I can, because it's full of lies. So it's like,
well, it's like, okay, I really wanted to read. I love Jeremy Renner.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love him. He's a wonder. I thought he was great in Hawkeye. I liked him in, I think it was The Bourne Legacy. I think it was. Mm-hmm. I really like him. He's a very understated actor. I wanted to buy his book about his recovery from his accident, that one that nearly killed him. I flipped open the book and I'm like, I can't read this. Mm-hmm. He has a filthy mouth. Mm-hmm. I love the guy. He's love in quotes. I like the guy. And I would love to read his story. I think it's an inspiring story. Mm-hmm. I will not read it because of his language. Mm-hmm. And I didn't read the book. I just saw that one page. Mm-hmm. And so, it's just, let's see, what else might do it?
Who or what do you trust most for book recommendations? Let's see if other things for reread or unhaul. Reread, if I do, I will definitely.
I definitely reread. If I love it, I will.
And we have a tag that we've done for rereads.
Yeah. You can see that on our rereads. Mm-hmm. Who or what do you trust most for book recommendations? My own interests. Mm-hmm. My husband's interests. My husband knows what I like. Tahlia's review. Mm-hmm. Tahlia's recommendations. I've got some people online that I am beginning to respect their reviews. Mm-hmm. Kevin, who got me into...
Arian's gotten me in trouble several times.
Arian's getting me in trouble. Arian, Kevin...
Vicky has gotten me in trouble several times because Arian, Vicky, and I all share very similar tastes. So some of the Western guys have gotten me... The guys who are doing the Westerns have gotten me in trouble.
That's where Kevin got me into trouble. And then there's... Faith. Mm-hmm. I bought 2 books because of Faith. Mm-hmm. So yes. So people I respect, booktubers who I respect, where they will mention books and I might pick it up or I'll put it on my wish list. Mm-hmm. And I will try to read them. And family members, friends, mm-hmm. and things like that. Sometimes I'll be influenced by, as we mentioned before, a review on Goodreads, mm-hmm. or on Amazon. I don't do Goodreads too much anymore, but on Amazon or on Storygraph.
Pinterest got me in trouble the other day.
I don't use Pinterest.
Well, I was using it to try to find pictures for Dr. Rush in order to do my journal page for him. I wanted just some of his actual, pictures of him. And there was a statue I could find, etc., etc. A title popped up that it dealt with the friendship of Benjamin Rush and John Adams, both of whom I love. And, of course, that's a book that I must own now. Yes. Because I love both of those people in history. Mm-hmm. And their friendship was a really nice friendship.
Well, the thing that Kevin led me to you suggested the Virginian, and he was talking about the Virginian and all that a little bit, and between him and you, I went and said, well, maybe this guy has more books. Yes, he does. Yes, I bought more. Yes, I have more on my wish list.
Yeah, she's thoroughly enjoying the Virginian, in case you can't tell.
Oh, I love the book. It's excellent. It's very, very good. And I get much further, much more quickly than I am on the Inklings. Not because I don't enjoy the Inklings as much. I do.
You just don't want to put down the Virginia.
I just, yeah. And also, I'm reading them every other day because I'm finding it impossible to stop halfway through. So like yesterday I read the Virginian. I think I added another 10%.
She does them when she's working out.
Yeah. So today when I get on the treadmill, I will only read the Inklings and see if I can. But the thing is, the Inklings is longer, so I'm getting frustrated because where I make exponential leaps and bounds with the Virginian, it seems like I'm taking baby steps with the Inklings.
Now, I think there's a lot more in, like, endnotes and stuff for the Inklings.
Oh, it might be. Yeah.
Sometimes if I feel like something's not going far enough, I'll find the where the endnotes begin, find that page number, and then I will do a percentage, the math for percentage, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm still making some progress.
Right.
That's what I'll do sometimes for very long books.
So I think the long and the short of it is that I have lots of different ways.
Yeah, there are lots. But if I'm to say like who I trust most for book recommendations, I trust most probably a couple of the booktubers that I mentioned where we seem to have a lot of the similar tastes. So I know generally I can trust their opinion on the book.
But we have a lady who doesn't have a channel. She's from Chile, I think. And she seems to have a lot of the same tastes that I do. So if she says I might be interested in a book, then I will look it up. And my friend here who watches, she lives in our town, who watches our YouTube, like, I'm sorry, I haven't, if she's watching this, you know who you are. I am going to answer your email. She suggested a book that was Inkling adjacent, and I haven't had a chance to do that. In fact, we might have a book club later on, so that'd be cool. So yeah, I think it's people that you respect, people who have common interests, people who know what you expect.
Or who have similar standards of writing. I think Ari and I have very similar ideas of what a history book should sound like. Where other people might, well, obviously other people don't have the same pickiness I do. I see in a lot of reviews, oh, this is as good of, this feels just like a historical fiction. That'll turn me off really quickly. If that says in the room, like, review, I'm like, okay, well, that's not the book for me. Or if they go like, man, this is so scholarly, I'm like, yes!
Yep. I like scholarly things, but I do like a little bit of, not finesse, but a little bit of something. A spoonful of sugar makes the medicine go down. I love history, but sometimes it could be, if it's just dates after dates after dates after dates or whatever, I need a little bit of story behind it. I'm not talking historical fiction.
Well, that's what I told you, if I have someone to latch on to.
Yeah.
But I don't want it to feel like I'm reading historical fiction. They're putting words and thoughts into the people's heads.
No. Then you
or telling me what they were looking at when. Okay, well, how do you know that's what they were looking at? How do you know that they were focusing on that instead of that? You just made that up.
They could have inferred and not made it up. You always go for the harshest thing.
How did they know that?
There is such a thing as inference by what they've read or what they've. I'm not saying they did. This happens in our house all the time. I get my hackles up whenever I think someone's judging someone unfairly. And so
if you're dealing about something written in the about people in the 1600s, unless they said,
they may have inferred from other things they've read. You have to give them the ability to think. Use the little gray cells.
It doesn't require that much thinking to make up something that they looked at.
You don't know if they're making it up, you oboe head. Okay, now.
I 99.9999999% no.
No, you really don't. Okay. And those of you who, well, somebody's going to ask me why I called you a noble head. That's okay. Okay.
I don't think there's even a story behind that.
Yeah, there is sort of, but I don't know what it is anymore. Okay.
All I know is that when I went to school and one of my really close friends, my nursing school study partner, turned out to play an oboe. I'm like, oh, that's what that looks like. That doesn't look like my head at all. It's a small little wind instrument.
Well, it's not small.
It's
but,
smallish.
Yeah.
It's
I mean,
smallish.
It's about the size of a clarinet, isn't it?
As I recall, it was like, it's a smaller wind instrument. It's not like huge.
Anyway, I didn't say your head was huge.
But still,
I
like,
said-
it's also like, it's not what I expect. I always picture the word oboe almost like one of those big...
Tuba?
Yes. Yes, like oboe sounds like
Would you prefer I call you a tuba?
But, like, an oboe sounds like it should look like a tuba.
Do you want me to
But,
call you
like,
a tuba
you
head?
remember when it was... Who wrote the you remember those musical classics that we had where they would have like Peter and the Wolf and those kind of things
upstairs, yeah.
but I'm talking about the ones where it had all the instruments,
Yeah.
where then they would talk about like certain animals or certain instruments. Which one was that?
I don't remember if
I want to say that was Vivaldi.
No, that we had a Vivaldi, but I'm not sure if that's the one we got in the magazine.
Was it Peter and the Wolf?
Peter and the Wolf is that one, yes. But we had some of them I got when we went to the Weigh and Save and the newsagents in Thetford. And sometimes some of the stuff I got from catalogs that were stateside when we were stationed in England.
But I remember specific ones. It might have been Peter and the Wolf.
It was Peter and the Wolf.
Where they went through with certain instruments and the sound. And I think some of those sounds were like the noise that I thought an oboe should make because of the name did not match the little instrument my friend played.
I don't know if an oboe was in Peter and the Wolf.
It might not have been, but just I pictured, I think, a tuba type sound with the word oboe, because an oboe doesn't sound like it should be smallish. It sounds like it should be whoa.
Anyway, like a bassoon or something.
Yes, because oboe just has that sound to me.
Okay.
You know how sometimes words just bring up images.
Moving on.
Tag other people.
Oh, tag other people. Okay. Okay. I will put my tagging in the description below the video because
this is actually a long video for you.
Yes, it is. So I will thank you for joining us here for our meanderings.
And actually, this is good time. We'll have to, after we turn this off, we'll have to wait until it turns 3, then I can start mine.
And we will see you again next time, which should be for us in about 15 minutes. God bless.
God bless.
Have a great day.
Bye.